Have you ever had a gut feeling that something just has to happen next? Well, today we're going to talk about a fascinating glitch in our brains that makes us see patterns where there are none. It's a bias that trips up all of us, from gamblers to judges to investors. So let's dive right in.
All right, let's start with the classic. Imagine I'm flipping a perfectly fair coin. It comes up heads. Okay, I flip it again, heads again, and again, and again, and again, until we have 10 heads in a row. Now I'm about to flip it for the 11th time. What's your bet? Does it just feel like tails is overdue? Like the universe owes you a tails? That feeling? That's what we're here to talk about.
And right there, that's the battle happening in our heads. Our intuition is practically screaming, "It's gotta be tails! The streak has to break!" But the cold, hard math says something completely different. The reality is, the odds are still exactly 50-50. You know why? Because the coin has no memory. It doesn't know or care what happened before. Every single flip is a fresh start. So here's how we're gonna break this down. First, we'll put a name on this thing. Then we'll dig into the psychology of why our brains work this way. After that, we'll see how this pops up in some really surprising, high-stakes places. And finally, we'll talk about the key to actually fighting it.
Okay, so let's get official. What do we actually call this powerful intuition that a streak has to end?
It's called the gambler's fallacy, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a mistaken belief. It's when we think that just because something has happened a lot in the past, it's somehow less likely to happen in the future. We're expecting a reversal, a correction. But in truly random events, there's nothing to correct.
But that raises a huge question, right? If it's a fallacy, if it's just plain wrong, why are our brains so good at falling for it? Well, the psychology behind it is actually pretty cool.
So it seems to come down to a few things. First, our brains just love balance. We know that over 1 million coin flips, it's going to be pretty close to 50-50. The mistake we make is expecting that same 50-50 balance in a tiny little sample of 10 flips. Second, our real-world experiences kind of train us for this. I mean, think about a gumball machine. If you keep getting red gumballs, you know the odds of getting a blue one are going up, right? Because there are fewer reds left. We apply that same logic to the coin, but the coin never runs out of heads or tails. And finally, the research shows this bias gets way stronger when we have to put our money where our mouth is, when we have to actually make a decision.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just about the data we see, it's about how we see it. The experience itself actually changes our perception.
Yeah, so researchers Barron and Leader found something fascinating. When we see a streak happen one event at a time, heads, then another heads, then another. It has a much bigger impact on us. It's called the recency effect. Those last few flips feel huge. They feel way more important than they actually are. So experiencing the streak sequentially, one by one, makes the fallacy much, much stronger than if someone just showed you a piece of paper that said 10 heads. It's the play-by-play that gets us.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, so I shouldn't bet on coin flips. Got it. But this isn't just about gambling. This exact same mental mistake shows up where the stakes are incredibly high.
This quote from a major 2016 study really says it all. What the researchers found is that even professionals, people whose job is to make impartial decisions, fall into this trap. After a series of yes decisions, their brains start looking for a reason to say no, leading to some really serious systematic errors. And the examples are kind of shocking. They found that asylum judges in the US are more likely to deny someone's case if they just approved the last few. Loan officers get more cautious after they've approved a bunch of loans. Even Major League Baseball umpires are more likely to call a strike after a few balls have been thrown. And of course, investors do this all the time, buying and selling based on short-term streaks. These aren't just one-off mistakes, they're predictable patterns.
So as you can see, the research paints a really clear picture. Whether we're talking about professional judgments, investment behavior, or just casinos and lotteries, the core mechanism is the same. We see a streak, and our brain subconsciously pushes us to bet on a reversal, even when there's no logical reason to. So if this is happening everywhere, to everyone, from umpires to judges, what hope do the rest of us have? How can you actually spot this happening in your own mind? Well, first we have to appreciate just how sensitive we are to this. We're not talking about a long streak of 10 heads. Get this, a 2019 study found that about half of us start to expect a reversal after seeing just 3 of the same thing in a row. 3! That's how deep this intuition runs. So what's the solution? Well, the good news is you don't need to be a math whiz. The single most powerful tool against the gambler's fallacy is simply awareness. It's about knowing this bias exists and training yourself to remember that one word, independent. For random events, the past has no power over the future.
Each one is a world unto itself. So, we've seen how this quiet little bias can change people's lives in a courtroom or move millions of dollars on the stock market, which leads to the final and maybe most important question. Now that you know about it, where might the gambler's fallacy be hiding in your own life, quietly influencing your decisions?